We're pleased to have with us today Brother and Sister Latta. Some of you know Brother and Sister Latta, some of you don't. Brother Latta, he was a young man, 24, 25, felt a real call to go to Liberia, West Africa. And he went there being the youngest missionaries in the United Pentecostal Church, in the history of the United Pentecostal Church. And when he was there, he had 4 children. He lived 50 miles from the nearest motor road. Amazing, amazing things happened there. Devil Bush Society attack. You just wouldn't believe. And I hope he tells about it today. But maybe that'll be another time. I don't know. I have asked him to come share some wonderful missionary stories with us as he speaks the word of the Lord, preaches the word of the Lord. And then he was in Zimbabwe. When every other missionary was leaving Zimbabwe, he was coming into Zimbabwe again with his 4 children. Saw a wonderful work of the Lord done there. And then he was a missionary evangelist for many years, doing an incredible work for God, doing missionary training, teacher training, crusades, helping pastors that were coming back to America for various things, missionaries. He would take their works. And I think he's lost track of the country. Many years ago, he had told me he'd been to 72 countries. I'm sure he's probably been to 80 plus now. He crossed the Atlantic. How many times have you crossed the Atlantic? Do you remember how many times you crossed the Atlantic?
I don't know, but it's 44.
44. Maybe it was 80 sometimes he crossed the Atlantic. But anyhow, but who knows? But anyhow, he's crossed the Atlantic a whole bunch of times and just done so many things. So it's an honor to have him. I did want to share. He's got some books today. Bible answers to people's questions. Has a great sectional doctrine in the front. Bible promises. And I just recommend all these. Sister Latta, God has gifted her to write poetry. And this is fantastic poetry. Both of these books are incredible on Christian poetry. They're very deep and have tremendous meaning. And just fantastic. And then he's got 2 books out about his missionary journeys, Liberia Sweet, and he's Black and Blue, but he's not through, that has many stories. He's been beaten twice, very severely, for the gospel, and preached all around the world. So we are just glad you're here today. Aren't you glad to have Brother and Sister Latta here? Why don't we just thank the Lord?
Praise God. Pastor Walter, I don't know if this church knows this or not, but there's not a single church in the United Pentecostal Church that has a greater pastor than what you've got. If you missed that Sunday school lesson this morning, you missed a masterpiece. There's a lot of churches that give anything in the world to have a preacher that could put the word out like this man does. And I love him, if you hadn't guessed that by now. I appreciate Brother and Sister Waldron and their family, just great people. You may be seated, and I want my darling wife, you know, when we were just kids, I asked her, I said, do you ever want to go to Africa as a missionary? She said, all my life. I said, well, why don't we get married? And so we did 60 years ago. And I still like her. Come on, honey, and give that good folks a congregation here today. There, you made it.
Lord bless you. Wonderful to be here. See some of our favorite people, Mary Rowan in particular, my very best friend on earth, and all of you sweethearts with those sweet smiles you have. And someone asked me one time, how long you been traveling? I said, all of my life. Someday I'm going to get to where I'm going. But when we traveled the world with those 44 countries, I had people write in their language the same scripture in my Bible. The scripture is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. So it's scattered all through my Bible in different languages is that scripture. And you know, Jesus said, well, in the Bible said David was the light of the world. And Jesus said, I'm the light of the world. Or David was the light of Israel. Jesus said, I'm the light of the world, but now you're the light of the world. So everywhere you go, you got a light. You can't help it. The light is shining. So one day I was going to Kroger's, we just live around the corner, on a Friday. Usually I go Wednesday because that's the senior discount day. Well, I went on Friday. I wasn't thinking about witnessing to anybody. Had on an everyday dress. My hair didn't look quite right. And girl checking me out I'd never seen before. And she said, "What is different about you?" She said, "There's a look of peace on you." And I said, "Well, it's probably because I love Jesus and I'm Pentecostal." That girl laid her hand on my hand and said, "Can I go to church with you?" I went home because we're just around the corner, got the church card, came back and gave it to her. And I thought, Lord, it's white and ready for harvest. There's people out there wanting you to tell them how to be saved and wanting you to invite them to church. And so just be aware of that. Because God brings people across our pathway all the time, even we're not even thinking about it. They just come to us sometimes. And so I wrote this poem about a light, and I pray it will bless you today and make you think. You've all got a light to share with somebody. Put a light in the window, for night is coming on. I've got to be able to find my way home. I've wandered so far, o'er land and o'er sea. The word home sounds like heaven to me. Just a little candle or a light or a lamp will do, will guide me back safely to you. Now in this world we live in, many have lost their way. The night is so dark and gone is the day. If we'll just light the path, they'll follow the light. And when they look up, home is in sight. Don't forget others are lonely too. One little light will guide them safe through. If on the sea, a beacon it may be. Up in the sky, a star they might see. But on this earth, in the window of love, a candle will guide them from the lighthouse above. I put a light in the window. As I looked across the land and saw the struggles of a weak man, I was so happy I didn't count the cost, as my light rescued one that was lost. You may say I have nothing to share, but if you have a candle and your heart is filled with care, then take it to the window for others to see. It will light the way home, and rejoicing you will be.